Okay, welcome to my presentation for part 4 of the project here. I'm going to go over a few things in order here to try to keep it in under 10 minutes. So first is the name of the project is a WoW Classic character generator. The target audience is anyone who wants to play the game World of Warcraft Classic. Obviously. The purpose of the software is to assist people with choosing which type of character they want to make when they play the game. The reason I felt it was necessary to do this is because the game is very unforgiving if you make the wrong choice. So there's things in the game that only certain characters can do, and that's based on the choices you make right away when you start playing. So if you don't know what you're doing, it can be bad to just kind of jump in. So this tool will help you pick a character, or at least nudge you in the right direction for what type of playstyle you want to do. So that's that. Let's get into the functionality of the application itself. So I'm going to run the code here. It has 3 main functions right now. Basically, it's a console app, so it has a user interface here where I can navigate between different let me just restart it here. I could navigate between the different options here. So 3 is for load character. So the first thing I'll show you is loading a character string. So whenever you use this program to come up with a result, it saves it. So I'll enter the string test key, which is one I saved, and it gives me back a human warrior. So what's actually happening here is if we open up Redis, so this is my Redis database. If we go to saved characters, which is a hash table, it has a secret key, which I just typed test key, the first one, and then it saves a combination. So that's the first functionality. So let's go back here, and what I'll do is I'll actually search up one of the ones I made earlier. So let's type in this 10615 PAAE. Oh, made a mistake. Let's go back. 10615 LPAAE. So we get a dwarf paladin, and it returns us the string. So right now, all this does is it obviously saves like two words and brings it up, so it doesn't do much. But I had other functionality planned for players to come in and change things, or if there's other things the program did, this is where it would save them. Let's go to the second function here. So it'll generate a random character. So for this, you just hit random and it goes. So it picked for us a human rogue, and it generated this key. So if I refresh this now, we should see human rogue at the bottom with the same key. And so the way it does this is there's some logic in there. In World of Warcraft Classic, each character has one race and one class, and there's different combinations that are legal. So you can't have certain things, like you can't have a human hunter. So when this generates a random result, it uses that logic to make sure that it's a valid response. And then the main part of the program, the biggest part, is creating a character based on your input. So you would come to use this if you don't know anything about WoW, but these are some basic questions about any MMO or video game you could answer. And I think there's 31 questions. So I will just go through them quick without explaining them, because they're more pertinent to the game rather than the code. But notice here you have 4 options. So you can type 0 through 3, and each of those represents a different weight, and that weight is applied as a factor. So each question has its own base weight, and that weight applies to every single different part of the program that it takes to determine your choice, which is both the factions, all 8 of the races, and all 9 of the classes. And then it takes that base weight and it adjusts it based on how you answer here. So it's pretty heuristic in terms of how deep it goes and to determine your responses. So I'm just going to enter some data, and you can go through this when you get the code to try it out. There's quite a few questions. and then when we get to the end, it will spit out a result. So based on those random things I just entered, it's telling me that the best combination for me is to play a Druid Night Elf. And then it also gives me this key, which should appear in this list. And there we have it. So that's the Redis database, and that's the functionality of the program. How the program actually works, I'll point out the two things it contacts out in the web. So number one is the Battle.net API. So this is their website here for WoW Classic, and so this is one of the API calls my program does. And I'm just going to show you it here visually. So it returns this big list with all the different races. So let's close this. I have this class, the API here. And so it'll go out and it'll find those things, and then it'll actually use that information to determine which type of questions to ask and which weights to apply based on the response from there. Second thing is obviously Redis, so all my data is stored here on the net. And like I said, all the things in this chart, I translated over here. These are the values. The math behind it is a mess. It's in the program, but it's all there. So it connects to the API, connects to the Redis database. Let's move on here to the checklist. So let's look at the aspects of the architectural design. So I have some documents here. Let's take a look at the classes. I think this one's explains the most. So I have 4 design patterns. First one is the singleton. So the singleton has basically read-only data that really it only needs to get once, which is of course like the API keys. I'll open up here. So it gets the API keys and whoops. And it also has some other functions, like I imported this clear screen function. That's the first design pattern. The second one is the model view controller. So here it shows the interface is the console where the user can enter data and talk to the controller, and that's the only thing it can do. And the controller is like a liaison between the interface and the user, and of course the actual program itself. So it uses the model to grab any information it needs. So the interface can't actually do any of that, but the controller can. So it's all isolated. The third design pattern is the wrapper. So I turned the model actually into a wrapper, and so the way that this works is it has like custom methods for calling the API. The APIs for at least for the WoW one given was not very useful, so I made a wrapper to use it. It also does the same thing for Redis. Like it'll query the Redis database based on what it's given, so it has different options and strings that you can send it. So it works as a wrapper basically. And the last design pattern is the factory one. So this one is what creates the characters. So controller has a factory. It tells the factory to create characters, and then it gives the characters to the controller so that it can present it to the user. Of course, the factory here, all it does is it makes 2 types of characters, because that's what I made, but it could be extended obviously to make different characters. Like if you wanted to do this for other versions of WoW, you could have the different versions in here and make a character based on those rule sets. That's that for the architectural views. It's hard to go through the code here because there's quite a bit of code and see how it all ropes together. But I did well comment this in my submission, so it's all explained here, exactly what's going on. The big one is the character. There's quite a bit of code here for determining what the result is. So I'm running out of time. This is the 3rd time I've recorded. It's 4 a.m. you can see. So thanks for listening, and see you later.